Hello, Dina here, littlewidow.com, Littlest Widow on Instagram, The Little Widow on Twitter. We're gonna do a follow-up reading tonight. I put this off for a while. I don't love asking follow-up questions a lot. I feel like it kind of sets a tricky precedent a little bit. I'm one person and I get a good bit of inquiries actually, and I would like to do more than I'm doing currently. I mean, ideally I'd like to do this a couple times a week, but time is a factor. Beyond that, I feel like I'm smudging the cards right now. That's why they're off camera. Beyond that, I feel like sometimes it's tricky. I think the more we ask the cards, the more muddled our responses get. And I do it in my own life a lot, for sure. But it doesn't mean that it's a good practice. That said, I did a reading last week for someone who is trying to have a baby, and her question was, is she ever going to get pregnant? And we got what I felt was a fairly resounding yes. Her chart looked really promising. It looked like we could expect to see something within the next 4 years tops. And she wrote me back and said that her birth time was way off in the wrong direction. So looking at that now, the things that I kind of discussed in the last reading are happening more like 5 or 6 years from now, which puts that kind of right at the end, I would say. I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor, but right at the end of her window of where she would want to be having her first child, for sure. So I don't think those are the same indicators we're looking at now. I think they're a little too far off to be paying too much attention to those same things. I think they're just showing a shift in focus. They might be representing a second child at that point, or, again, like I did say last time, like when the child is ambulatory and screwing all your shit up, that could be what those things are indicating in your chart, because they are farther off now even. Things look promising right now in your chart. It's a tricky thing to look at astrology in terms of pregnancy and childbirth. The reason being, writing a book, if you're a writer, looks a hell of a lot like giving birth or making a child. As an example, starting a new business, getting married, a lot of those things, a lot of the earmarks and the hallmarks, they look similar. It's really not, it's like trying to predict death from a birth chart or even a progress chart. It's so difficult. It all looks the same. The nodes get involved. Neptune's usually involved, or Jupiter. Your personal planets are there. Your cusps. Like, you see all of it. You see something major is going to happen. But guessing what that major thing is it's a guess. That's what it is. I like to have it as a backup to the cards, but I don't think anyone can predict definitively what those major changes are going to be in your chart, nor would I try to. So I will say that the period that you're in right now looks very promising. It looks fertile. The period that, I would say around this time 3 years from now, in 2021, looks very promising. Looks like a baby could happen then. And then even further out, which I know is later than you want to hear, but about 2023 is where those original changes that we saw in your chart back when your birth time was, not what you thought it was. That's when those things start to kick in. And that also looks, like a period of change. It could be a second child by then, though, or it could be something else entirely. And I just want to speak to that a little bit, because I mentioned in the first reading that I saw that your progressed Uranus was going to be conjunct your progressed 7th house cusp, and that, it just shows some change in the partnership. And I tried to really make that very mild and say change in the partnership dynamic, because I was looking at the birth of a child. That's what I was looking for, that you guys are trying to have a baby. And what could change a partnership dynamic more than adding a third person to it? Very little. However, the person we're reading for seemed kind of alarmed by that. That could be anything. And it's 5 years off at this point. So if you get alarmed about that now, that could be a self-fulfilling prophecy more than anything else. So I do not recommend dwelling on that, and it's not something that I would have mentioned ever had I not thought it had to do with having a baby, because that could be anything. So now the timeline has changed, but that is still there in your chart. That could be moving. That could be, that could be anything. That could be an eccentric Aquarius in your life having something happen. It could be anything. Don't make it a thing until it's a thing. A. B, to expect to have children and a child without it changing your partnership dynamic, with the notion of your partnership dynamic being shaken up, being alarming or an issue, might be something to look at, because a child is going to dramatically change your partnership dynamic. 2 children will change it more. So I'm putting that out there because sometimes when things aren't coming when we think we want them to come, it's because we're not ready for them. So just examine that. Your life is gonna change when there's a baby. Your partnership is gonna change when there is a baby. If the idea of your partnership changing is scary, maybe something's holding you back. So in any case, tonight our reading is we want to see why is there no baby? I got a little more backstory this time. It was unexplained fertility is what she's being told. This is a tricky thing to ask the cards. I mean, I don't know that we're gonna get a clear answer, to be completely frank. I mean, we asked last time and they said yes, she was gonna have a successful pregnancy. So tonight, I feel like I shouldn't have reshuffled because I felt like the cards wanted to say something and then I kept talking and now we're not anywhere near done. Tonight we're gonna see what's the hang up. Why is she not getting pregnant? I mean, it might be completely ambiguous. I really don't know. But that's what we're asking tonight. We put all those caveats out there. I said my piece about accepting change. It's coming. You have so many pivotal things in your chart in the next 5 years that, based on what the cards told us last time, I would be very surprised if it does not work out the way you want it to. Many opportunities. But tonight we want to see if we can see what the holdup is. Do not dwell on the partnership thing. Change is inherent in life. It happens. It could be a change of job. It could be a change of schedule. It could be anything. If you obsess on it, it could be bigger than it needs to be. So it's not something I would have mentioned if I didn't think it was coinciding with the birth of a child. All right, so what is our problem? Why is there no baby yet? That's what we want to know. Don't dwell on that. If you're really worried about it in the future, we can ask like way in the future, not now. Oh, I'm using the Chicholi Tarot deck tonight. I just felt like these little ladies were appropriate. All right, so we have the Four of Swords. That's a card of rest and contemplation, recovering actually after an illness. Sometimes in the environment of the Queen of Cups, what is crossing us is the Five of Wands. The Moon is the foundation. This is a beautiful version of the Moon in this deck. behind us are the Five of Pentacles. Another beautiful version of this card. The Ace of Swords. The Knight of Swords is before us. Ten of Pentacles. The Six of Swords. The King of Cups. And our outcome is the King of Wands. Okay. So again, very hard to read something like this. Like even the concept of it had me stressed out because I you know, so looking at this from this perspective, right? As though, why are we not getting pregnant? What can we look at? What can we do potentially? If I'm going to look at this objectively, not knowing your situation really, I'm going to say it looks to me like you're in a period of recovery of some sort. Be that emotional, mental, whatever it is. Maybe you had a stressful period of time and I don't know, that's you're in a nurturing environment right now where you're recovering from something, it looks like to me. The foundation of things is so the moon is at the base of this. Normally I could read the moon as intuition or, you know, the subconscious, something like that. Sometimes I read it as depression. In a pregnancy reading, I might read this as hormones. I might say that there is a hormonal issue here at the basis of this for one of you. Being the moon came up, I mean, we're ruled by the moon and the tides, right? It's a thought, and the crossing card is the Five of Wands. It's a really masculine card. It comes up sometimes for sex, it's competition. I would totally read the Five of Wands as a testosterone thing or a progesterone thing, not estrogen in any case. The moon I would see as estrogen. In any case, I feel like there might be something a little hormonal happening there in getting those two cards as our crossing cards and our basis for this. Again, this is iffy. This is an iffy territory, and that's why I put off doing this for like a week because I really didn't want to, because it's tricky. But I do see, so the Five of Pentacles is behind us. This is a card we get every so often. That's the Leopard card. This deck looks different. It's beautiful. She's clearly hurt, and that little cardinal is eating her heart, literally. That's a card of, again, depression. Sometimes not seeing not seeing what you have in front of you, taking things for granted. We're moving away from that. We're moving towards the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords represents information. That would be moving towards clarity, I would say in this case, and towards getting news. He can sometimes represent harsh news or bad news, but it is news. It is clarity. It is a restart to a communication and to garnering new knowledge. So whatever the situation is, you're going to be moving towards clearing it up and figuring it out in the very near future. You guys are shown as the Ten of Pentacles. This is a happy, committed relationship, it looks like. The environment you're in is moving away from difficulties. It's the Six of Swords. You're moving towards something better and more peaceful. And the outcome is the King of Wands. So being we asked, why are we not getting pregnant? And we're getting the King of Wands as the outcome. I think we first have to look at this very literally. The most literal way that we could look at the King of Wands would be saying that maybe there's something with your husband's hormone levels, first of all, based on these things. You know, we automatically look to the woman. And the King of Wands coming up in the I mean, that's as like legit sperm as you can get, the King of Wands. So my recommendation based on this would be, if you've been checked out, it's his turn. Something's, I mean, really, like if I feel weird making that even saying that. Like, I feel strange committing to that. But my first instinct is that something's up with your husband in this scenario. The King of Wands is literally, he sires the entire suit of wands, and wands are creation, they're fire, they're passion, they're sperm. So my instinct would be to say that if there is a holdup, there is something hormonal happening, and it is probably with him based on these cards. So I do think you're going to get it straightened out. I totally do. I mean, we asked the cards last time if you were going to have a successful pregnancy, and we got the 9 of Cups. So it's happening. It's just a matter of when. It will definitely be, I mean, obviously, right? It's got to be in the next 5 years or so, or else, you know, it's kind of a moot point. But so that's what we have tonight. It was a tricky reading. I put it off. I'm sorry it took me so long to do it. It's hard to do a medical reading of some kind. You know what I mean? Like, it's so ambiguous, but I'm actually glad that we got the King of Wands in the outcome position. I think that was a lot less ambiguous than it could have been. So based on that reading, I think that's what's going on. If you do want to send me his birth time, I could look at it. I mean, it's unlikely that I'm going to see anything, though, in his chart that's showing that. Your chart looks super fertile and promising for the next 5 years. So don't stress, don't hesitate, don't, keep trying. But you might want to, if he hasn't been thoroughly checked out, based on the cards, I'm inclined to say that that's where the issue is, and you have nothing in your chart that looks like it precludes or hinders pregnancy in any way. So I hope that was somewhat helpful. I don't know. All right. Well, if anyone else would like vaguely ambiguous reading that it takes me a whole week to do, please email me. The email's on the website. All right, good night. Thank you.